Happy Friday, everybody. We're going to be looking at the 7 continents. So, our goal for today is to be able to identify them and distinguish the difference between them. So, you might be wondering, what is a continent? Well, a continent is just a very large landmass, and there are 7 on Earth. There's North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. The first one that we're going to look at is the continent that we live on. It's called North America. It is a big continent. In fact, it's the third biggest. It's surrounded by the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic Ocean. And how I can always remember where they're located is the Arctic's up here near the Arctic, but the Pacific, I always think about how it spells PA, P-A. So when you go to California or you go on the West Coast, you will see the Pacific Ocean. When you go on the East Coast, such as if you go to Florida or South Carolina, you've seen the Atlantic Ocean. From my experiences of both oceans, the Pacific Ocean has larger waves and it had more rocks on it, versus the Atlantic usually has the white sand and it has the smaller waves, and you don't see rocks on it as much as the Pacific Ocean. English, Spanish, and French are the most common languages spoken in North America. Some cool things that you can find if you were to visit there is Lake Superior, Niagara Falls, and the Grand Canyon. There are also many different habitats and animals in North America. So if you look at the different countries that make up North America, you have Canada, the United States, and Mexico, and the Caribbean area makes up North America as well. Let's look at North America on Google Earth. So here's our Earth. It is a sphere. A sphere is a 3D shape. It's pretty much a fancy term for a ball. So the maps that we see usually, they're just laid flat. And a lot of times in the past, my students have gotten confused. They forget that we actually live on a sphere. So here is North America. Some fun facts about North America is that people travel from all around the world to see Niagara Falls. I've never seen Niagara Falls, but my family has seen it, and they said that it is beautiful. So let's zoom in and check out Niagara Falls. There it is. It has a picture of it. It is in New York. And also, if you visit Niagara Falls, usually you'll visit Canada as well as New York, because it's right there on the Canadian border. I wonder if I can check it out. Let's see what this does. So there it is right there. So these are actually people checking out Niagara Falls, and you can see it right there. Another cool thing about North America is that alligators are the largest reptile there. Whales migrate along the coast, and the Mississippi River is our longest river in North America, and we live right on the Mississippi River. Whenever you travel over Kentucky Dam and you see Kentucky Lake, on the other side of Kentucky Lake, you will see the Mississippi River. So let's look at that. And it is located right there. It runs all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. Mount McKinley is also the highest mountain in North America. Let's see, do I have this saved? Looks like I don't have it saved, so we'll Google it. I know that Mount McKinley is actually located in Alaska. Alaska is one of our states of the United States. And that's what it looks like. So it's our highest point. And all major biomes can be found in North America. We've looked at biomes in science. All of them can be found on this continent. Let's go to the next continent. South America. South America is not as large as North America. It is the fourth largest continent. There are a lot of countries in South America, and Brazil, right here, is the largest country. But there's a lot of other well-known countries that you guys might have heard of. There's Peru, there's Chile, there's Argentina. And South America sits between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, just like North America does. It's right below North America. That's why it's called South America. The Amazon rainforest is in South America, and we actually looked at that on Google Maps a couple weeks ago. It is the second longest river in the world, and the Amazon rainforest is located on the Amazon River. There are a lot of languages spoken in South America, but Spanish and Portuguese are the most common languages. So let's check out South America on Google Earth. All right, here's South America. So there's North America, and here is South America. Some fun facts about South America are peppers are the most popular food there. There's a lot of parrots that are native to South America. There's the Galapagos Islands in South America, and it is home to all the tortoises. And the world's largest rainforest, like we said, the Amazon rainforest is located there. And did you know that anacondas in South America can grow up to be as long as a bus? So let's look at some of these cool places. So if I click Amazon River, that's what it looks like. And notice all the trees around it because it's in the Amazon rainforest. Also, there's the Galapagos Islands. A lot of scientists have studied different animal life there. But it's known to be home to these tortoises, and they can live up to 100 years old. All right, let's look at our next continent. It is Africa. Africa is the second largest continent. It is a large, large continent. And not only is it very large in size, but it's very populated. There are over 50 countries in Africa, and there's more than 1,000 languages spoken. Some of the countries in Africa are Egypt, Nigeria, and Kenya. Africa is also home to many well-known animals. You probably visit these animals whenever you go to the zoo. African elephants are the largest land animal on Earth. And I actually didn't know the difference between an African elephant and an Asian elephant, so I Googled it. And it brought up this chart. And it says that African elephants, they have large ears. And Ms. Shoup taught me that the large ears, how you can remember that is Africa's a large continent. Well, they have large ears. They also have tusks. Asian elephants, look how much smaller their ears are, and they're smaller in size. So just a fun fact about where the elephants live, the African elephants are your largest land animal. The longest river in the world is located in Africa, and it's called the Nile River. If you have any biblical knowledge, you know that the Nile River is sometimes mentioned. Moses went down the Nile River in a basket, if you're familiar with that story. And the biggest desert on Earth is the Sahara Desert. And we looked at that whenever we looked at biomes a couple weeks ago. So let's check out Africa on Google Earth. Oh, wrong thing. All right. So we're spinning around, and there is Africa. See how massive it is? Some fun facts about Africa is lions are one of the most famous African animal. Most of Egypt is in Africa, but it's partly in Asia too. So speaking of Egypt, a lot of you guys know whenever you think of Egypt, you think about the pyramids. So let's take a look at those pyramids. The Great Pyramid of Giza is probably the most famous pyramid. These pyramids are amazing because they are built so long ago, and they're actually built by Egyptian slaves. Again, if you're familiar with that story about Moses, he freed the Hebrews. Well, the Hebrews were some of the slaves that worked on these pyramids. So they're just huge, amazing structures that are really, really old. And the Great Pyramid of Giza is a burial ground for one of the kings of Egypt. We also mentioned the Nile River and how it's the longest river. So let's check that out. Africa is also home to a lot of rainforests, just like South America. But it also has a lot of savannas. Savannas are those grassy areas that you see that lions live at. So there is your Nile River. Let's move on to our next continent, and that is Europe. Europe is a small continent. However, it's home to a lot of people and a lot of different countries and cities. I really, really want to visit Europe because there's so many things to see there. The biggest country is Russia, but Russia is actually a part of Europe and Asia. Another thing that you guys might want to know is there are a dozen languages spoken in Europe, and there's a lot of famous places like the Eiffel Tower and the Colosseum. And the animals that live in Europe are pretty similar to the animals that live here in the United States, but they have wild boars and they have moose, which is different than the United States. So let's check out Europe on Google Earth. Whenever I think of Europe, I think of all the cities, and it even brings up city life. So here's Europe and all the different countries. And the cool thing about Europe is these countries are so small that you can visit several countries at once. Something that you guys might think of when you think of Europe is Paris, France, and how there's the Eiffel Tower there. So let's visit the Eiffel Tower. I want to check it out, what I would see if I were to visit. So let's drop my little guy right there. So this is what it looks like in Paris, France. And you look up and there is your Eiffel Tower. Another cool thing that you would see in Europe is the Buckingham Palace. It's where the King and Queen of England live. So let's travel there. And let's see what I would see if I were to visit the Buckingham Palace. See how industrialized that Europe is? It's not like that everywhere. But I always think of those big, pretty cities whenever I think of Europe. So that's where they live. There's your palace. And I've got two more things I want to show you about Europe. But London Bridge is actually a real bridge. I know you guys know the song London Bridge is Falling Down. So I wanted to show you guys London Bridge. It's in London, England. Let's see what that would look like. I think it's down here. There it is. So here's our bridge. And there's your London Bridge. It's a beautiful bridge. Looks like I'm on a boat. Someone took a picture of this on the boat. My last place that we're going to visit is the Colosseum. We've talked about that when we talked about arrays and how there are rows and columns. And an easy way to remember that columns go up and down is because of the Colosseum. It has a lot of columns. The Colosseum is a very, very old building. It's in Rome, Italy. I'm going to drop my little guy right in the middle so I know what it's like to visit the Colosseum. And look how beautiful this is. Obviously, it's been run down, but it is so ancient. It's very, very old, and the fact that it's still standing is amazing. So that is the Colosseum. So that's what I'm talking about whenever I talk about columns. See all these columns that are going up and down? It's an easy way to remember it. Okay, let's move on to our next continent. The very next one is Asia. Asia is the largest continent, and it's also the most populated, which means it has the most amount of people. Billions of people live in Asia, and China is the most populous country on Earth, and that is located in Asia. It's the only continent to share borders with more than one continent. There are 3 main oceans that touch it: the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is like what you would see in California. The Arctic Ocean is that really cold ocean. It's at the very, very top. In the Indian Ocean, I don't know much about it, but I know that it is very tropical. Asia has many different types of landmarks and habitats. It also has the highest and lowest points on Earth. Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth, and it is located in Asia. And the Dead Sea is the lowest. And the Dead Sea is called the Dead Sea because there's no animals that live in it. It is super, super salty. And I've seen videos where people who visit the Dead Sea, whenever they lay in the Dead Sea, it makes them float to the top. So you naturally float because of how salty the water is. Asia is also home to pandas, the Asian elephant that I showed you guys, and camels. Let's look at Asia on Google Earth. So it's zooming out. We were in Europe. Now there's that big landmass right here. All of that is Asia. See how far out we had to go because it is so massive. So some countries in Asia that are really populated is Japan, China, India. Those are home to millions of people. And in Asia altogether is home to billions. All right, let's look at the Taj Mahal. That is a famous building, and it is in India. This is the Taj Mahal. I wonder if I can visit it. Let's see what it looks like if we were to go there. And there it is. Isn't that beautiful? All of this is so pretty. Lotus flowers also grow in Asia, and many martial arts came from Asia, such as karate. There are 6,000 islands in Japan. And like we talked about with the Asian elephants, that's mainly what they're known for, but a lot of times that they will decorate the elephants and they will put beautiful jewelry on them. And some of the world's most active volcanoes are in Asia. All right, let's move on to our next continent. It is Australia. Australia is not only a continent, but it's also a country. And it has less people than any other continent except Antarctica. It's also the smallest and flattest continent. Whenever I attended Murray State, whenever I was in college, I had a friend from Australia, and she said that no one lives in the middle of Australia. They all live on the outskirts of Australia. The Great Sandy Desert is one of the largest deserts, and it's in Australia. Other parts of Australia also have rainforests, savannas, and forests. We looked at different habitats a couple weeks ago, and I've mentioned some of those, but the Great Barrier Reef is one of those habitats where you had to drag an animal or create an animal for it. It's the largest reef system in the world. and it's in the Indian Ocean, just off of Australia's coast. It's right up here. Many, many different fish live in that. And a lot of people call Australia Oceania, but